I was always the one who cleaned up the messes. When Eva crashed Dad's car drunk at 17 and blamed it on faulty brakes, I backed her up. When Mom forgot my birthday 2 years in a row but remembered Eva's dog's name, I smiled through it. When Dad left for a few weeks and never came back, I was the one who rubbed Vicks on Mom's chest when she cried so hard she couldn't breathe. They called me strong. They said I had an old soul. They said I was so good at letting things go. But strength, I've learned, isn't how much you carry. It's how well you pretend it's not breaking your spine. Eva was born with sunshine in her laugh and poison in her smile. Everyone adored her. Her excuses always had charm. Her lies came with lip gloss and tears. And me? I was the one who turned the lights off after the party, did the dishes, and wrote the apology text on her behalf. I think I was 10 when I realized it. I wasn't the favorite. I was the buffer, shield, girl who got in the way of her mother's disappointment and her sister's consequences. But I didn't resent it. Not then. I was raised to believe that goodness was quiet. That kindness meant biting your tongue so someone else could feel comfortable. And honestly, that's what I thought love was. Swallowing your voice to keep other people from choking on theirs. It didn't stop when we grew up. Eva still called me crying when she ruined things, which was often jobs, friendships, boyfriends, and I'd show up every time, like clockwork. Because in our family, being the good one didn't mean being loved more. It meant being useful longer. Then came Connor. The first man who looked at me like I wasn't the background, like I was the reason the room felt warm. He was calm, kind, the type of man who listened without waiting to talk. I remember the night he met Eva. She smiled too wide, laughed a little too loud, joked about how serious I'd always been, like I was a black and white movie and she was Technicolor. Connor just chuckled, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "She doesn't see it yet, but you're the strong one." I wish I could say that moment stayed gold. But nothing gold ever stays, does it? That same night, I found Eva in the kitchen, barefoot, holding his jacket like it belonged to her. "Cute guy," she said. "He's not a guy," I smiled. "He's the guy." She tilted her head, then said something that should have set off every alarm in my body. "You always pick the ones I could never have, if I cared enough to try." I laughed it off, because that's what I was trained to do. The wedding was 6 months away. The dress was already picked. My mother cried when I tried it on. She said it was the first time she saw me glow. Eva said it made my shoulders look broad, like I could bench press the groom. Still, I didn't say anything. Because that's what the bigger person does, right? She swallows the insult, smiles anyway, keeps the peace. 1 week before the wedding, Connor asked to meet at the park where he'd proposed. His hands were shaking. "I'm so sorry," he said. My stomach sank. "Is it cold feet?" He didn't answer. He just looked down, then looked past me. And I turned. There she was. Eva. Hair curled, lipstick perfect, standing like she belonged in this moment, like I didn't. She said nothing. Connor said nothing. And I smiled. I actually smiled and said, "I understand." Because I did. I understood exactly who I was in this family. The healer, the glue, the girl who wiped her own tears before they could stain the carpet. But something inside me that night didn't break. It cracked. And from that crack, something started to grow. Not rage, not revenge, just a question. What happens when the bigger person stops being bigger? People think betrayal feels like fire, but it doesn't. Fire is loud, violent, obvious. Betrayal feels like ice. A slow creeping chill that seeps into your bones long before you realize you're dying from it. The wedding was canceled with one email, sent from Connor's account. No explanation, no apology, just a polite line. "We've decided to part ways and appreciate your respect for our privacy." We. The word felt like a joke. Because he was too ashamed to say what everyone around me had already whispered. He chose her. The worst part? No one blamed her, not Mom, not her aunt, not even my so-called best friend, Alana. She didn't mean for it to happen, they said. It's not like she planned this. They just connected. And me, I was told to take the high road, to be gracious, to let love win. One aunt even dared to say, "You're strong. You've always been the mature one. That's why you'll survive this." As if maturity was some kind of consolation prize for being humiliated. The wedding venue tried to keep the deposit. I handled that on my own. The florist felt bad and gave me half off for the arrangements. I dropped them at the local nursing home. The dress? I left it hanging in my closet like a ghost that wouldn't leave. A week later, I saw them. Eva and Connor. At brunch. At our brunch place. He wore the sweater I bought him last Christmas. She wore my perfume. I recognized it when she walked past. Eva looked at me like I was a door she'd already closed. She said nothing. He looked at the floor. And I smiled. Again. Because if I cried in public, I knew the narrative would shift. From, she was wronged, to, she's still so dramatic. So I swallowed the scream sitting on my tongue and ordered a coffee I didn't drink. That night, I deleted all our engagement photos, but I kept one. Not of me and Connor, just me. Standing under fairy lights, laughing, holding a sparkler. I looked free. And I couldn't remember the last time I actually felt that way. Eva posted about their new beginning on Instagram exactly 31 days after the canceled wedding. She used a quote graphic, "Sometimes you have to follow your heart, even if it breaks someone else's." The caption read, "No hate, just healing." Meant Toby. My phone buzzed nonstop. Friends, coworkers, strangers from college I hadn't spoken to in years. Some wanted gossip. Some offered sympathy. One sent me a link to an online thread where people were discussing my family like it was a Netflix series. I didn't respond to anyone, not even when Eva sent me a message 2 days later. "I hope one day you'll forgive me. I never meant to hurt you. I just fell in love." I stared at that message for hours. The woman who stole my fiancé, hijacked my wedding, and destroyed my peace, wanted forgiveness like it was a favor. I didn't reply, but I kept the message. Not because I needed a reminder, but because something inside me had started keeping score. 2 weeks later, my mom called. Family dinner. Same house, same faces. Eva would be there. And they wanted me to come. To show grace. To prove I was the bigger person. So I went. Wore a dress that hugged every curve. Did my hair like I did when I first met Connor. Walked in with a bottle of wine and a smile so bright it made my mother blink twice. Eva greeted me with open arms like we were sorority sisters and not sisters by blood. "You look amazing," she said. "I'm so glad you came." I didn't hug her back. I didn't even pretend to. I just handed her the wine and said, "I figured you'd already taken everything else of mine. Might as well take this too." Her smile twitched. I walked past her, sat at the table, and listened to everyone pretend. Pretend the air wasn't heavy. Pretend this wasn't war. Pretend I hadn't been burned alive and asked to say thank you for the warmth. They thought I was healed because I wasn't screaming. But that's the thing about quiet women. They bleed in silence. They endure politely. And when they finally break, they don't raise their voice. They raise the whole damn standard. After that dinner, I stopped trying to explain myself. No more justifying why I didn't reply to texts. No more showing up to pretend like everything was okay. I didn't rage. I didn't post cryptic quotes. I didn't block anyone. I just stopped. Quietly, firmly, like pulling the plug from a machine that had been sucking the life out of me for years. Eva messaged again 2 days later. "Can we talk? I feel like things are weird between us." Weird. Not broken, not betrayed, not, "I stole your fiancé and emotionally gutted you in front of our entire family." Just weird. I left her on read. Because that's how I was raised, not to make a scene. But in the silence, I started noticing things I'd missed for years. My mother stopped calling altogether. But my aunt sent a voice note. "You really should reach out. Eva's having a hard time. This has been stressful on everyone." Everyone. As if the betrayal was a thunderstorm we all happened to get caught in. And not a house fire Eva lit with a smile and gasoline-soaked matches. Then came the voicemail from my father. Yes, him. The same man who left us when I was 12. He said, "I know this is hard for you, but family is forever. Don't punish your sister over a man. That's petty." I stared at my phone in disbelief. This man who once missed 2 birthdays in a row because he forgot what month it was, now had the moral compass to lecture me on loyalty? That's when it hit me. They didn't love me for being good. They loved me for being convenient. As long as I was the one swallowing my anger, keeping the peace, patching holes in their emotional roofs, I was lovable, useful. But now that I had boundaries, I was the problem. So I started writing. Not letters, not journal entries, receipts, screenshots, notes, dates. I pieced together moments like a detective pulling threads from a crime scene. Texts where Eva manipulated me into canceling plans with Connor so she could accidentally show up at his place to surprise him. Photos of her wearing a necklace he'd custom ordered for me before we even broke up. An old voicemail from her, slurring, "He always looks at you like he's afraid to disappoint you. I bet he's more fun with someone like me." She thought I deleted it. I didn't. And the worst part? The deeper I dug, the more I realized they'd all known. Alana, my best friend, had seen them together weeks before the wedding and said nothing. My cousin had watched Eva flirt with him at a party and thought it was just drunk banter. Even my mother had defended Eva when I confronted her. She was just trying to protect you from a man who clearly didn't love you the way she does. Like stealing him was somehow an act of love. That's when I stopped crying. Not because I healed, but because I realized I'd been mourning people who were still alive. People who had made an active choice to let me hurt, so they didn't have to feel uncomfortable. And then one night, lying awake in bed, I whispered a truth I had never said out loud. I wasn't born to be their savior. Because I wasn't. I was just a girl who got good at bleeding quietly. And I'd spent too long building bridges to people who kept setting fire to my side. So no, I didn't burn the bridge, I built it. I named it after forgiveness. I paved it with second chances, and when I walked away, I didn't even look back to watch it fall. I never intended to go back. Not for birthdays, not for holidays, not for anything. But then came the text from my mother. "Please come to dinner. It's your grandmother's last wish. Everyone will be there. Just be civil. My grandmother, the one person in the family who'd ever looked at me and seen me, was dying. And for her, I'd do almost anything, even walk back into the fire. I wore black. Not out of pettiness, but because it felt appropriate. Like mourning the version of me they thought they still knew. The one who showed up, shut up, and smoothed everything over. That girl? She wasn't attending. They acted surprised when I walked in, as if I was the one who'd burned the house down and not the one who'd crawled out of it. My mother hugged me too tightly. My father cleared his throat and said something forgettable. Ava? She smiled like a snake dressed in silk. You look elegant, she said. So glad you made it. I didn't respond. I just took my seat at the table, opposite her, and waited. Dinner was fake peace, served on antique china. Connor was there too, of course. He didn't look at me once. Not when I reached for the wine. Not when Eva rubbed his arm like a prize she'd won in a raffle. The food was good. The silence was better. Then Eva tapped her glass with a fork. A soft, delicate ding. I'd like to say something, she said, rising to her feet. My stomach turned cold. I just want to thank you all, she began, placing her hand on Connor's shoulder. For supporting us. I know this wasn't ideal. But love finds a way. And I'm just so proud of how mature and graceful my sister has been through all of this. She turned to me. Her voice dipped into a syrupy tone. Equal parts condescension and performance. She's shown us what real strength looks like. No drama, no resentment, just forgiveness. The table clapped, like I was a guest of honor at my own public humiliation. I didn't blink, didn't flinch, but I felt it. That crack from before, the one she made when she took my fiancé, it split wide open, and through it, something new came pouring out. Not anger, not pain, clarity. I stood. The table went quiet. All eyes turned to me, expecting some rehearsed display of humility. A smile, a tear, maybe even a thank you. Instead, I said only this. I hope the silence I leave behind echoes louder than all the noise I've swallowed for this family. Then I placed my napkin on the plate, tucked in my chair, and walked out. No tears, no shouting, no dramatic exit music, just heels on hardwood. Just freedom. I didn't look back. Not even when my mother called my name. Not when Eva muttered, seriously? Not even when Connor said, wait. Because I wasn't waiting anymore. Not to be understood, not to be forgiven, not to be chosen. I was done auditioning for love I'd already earned. I drove until the sky turned navy blue and the road was just a ribbon unwinding behind me. Somewhere around midnight, I pulled into a roadside motel, lay on a scratchy bed, and exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding since I was a child. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to explain myself to anyone. 6 months. That's how long it had been since I walked out of that dinner table and left them clapping at my funeral like it was a wedding toast. 6 months since I stopped answering their texts. Since I stopped showing up for people who never showed up for me. Since I stopped trying to be someone they could be proud of. And started becoming someone I could live with. The air felt different in this city. No one knew me here. No one called me the mature one, or the strong one, or the peacekeeper. Here, I was just a woman in a coffee shop, typing at her laptop. A stranger on the subway, humming along to Fleetwood Mac. A human being, not a sponge for other people's chaos. I got a new job at a design studio. It paid less, but it gave me back my sleep. I filled my tiny apartment with plants, thrifted art, and quiet music. My therapist asked me once, "What does peace feel like to you now?" I told her, "It feels like drinking my coffee before it gets cold." She smiled. She knew exactly what that meant. Then one morning, a rainy Thursday, Eva called. I let it ring. 3 times. 4. Then voicemail. 2 minutes later, a text. "Please call me. I need you." I stared at it for a long time. Part of me still flinched, instinctively, the way someone does when they hear a familiar lie. But another part of me? That part was quiet. Still. Steady. I pressed play on the voicemail. Her voice cracked as soon as it started. "Hey, I don't know if you'll listen to this, but I messed up. He cheated. Connor, he's gone. Took the car, drained the account. Mom's freaking out. Everything's falling apart. I thought maybe you'd still care. I need you. Please." Click. Once, that message would have sent me running, packing bags, buying tickets, writing long texts filled with grace and warmth and forgiveness. But not now. Because I finally understood something. Needing someone isn't the same as loving them. And I'm not in the business of being needed anymore. I called her. She picked up on the first ring. "Hello?" she said, voice trembling. "Raw." I took a breath. Then, softly. "I'm not your hero anymore." Silence. Then a quiet gasp. "I know I messed up," she said, sniffling. "I know you hate me." "I don't hate you," I said. "But I also don't owe you access to me just because your world is crumbling. You didn't love me when I was hurting. You loved that I could survive it and still show up for you. Please. I hope you heal, Eva. I really do. But I'm not the bigger person anymore. I'm just a person now. And this person chooses peace." And then, For the first time in my life, I ended the call first. No dramatic music, no tears, just a strange, quiet kind of power. The kind that doesn't need an audience. That night, I lit a candle, made tea, and sat by my window, watching the rain. For the first time, the storm outside didn't feel like a warning. It felt like a rebirth. And here's what I want you to remember. Being the bigger person was never about forgiveness. It was about keeping people comfortable. But now I choose something better than comfort. I choose myself.